The first time my family disowned me, it was over the phone. My father didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He said it like a corporate memo, clean, final, and meant to hurt more because it sounded reasonable. "You're not a Knox anymore," he said. "Do not contact us again." That was years ago. No birthdays, no holidays, no weddings, nothing. Just silence that felt deliberate, like they were punishing me for building a life that didn't orbit them. So I stopped waiting for them to come back. I built something anyway. My law firm sits downtown on the 20th floor of a glass building that smells like polished stone and expensive coffee. I built it one client at a time, one hearing at a time, one late night at my desk when the city lights made the office feel like a spaceship, and I still refused to quit. By the time I was 35, when I had my name on the door and a waiting room full of people who trusted me with their worst days. That's why it hit so hard when the bell on the reception desk chimed and my receptionist's face went pale, because she wasn't looking at a client. She was looking at my parents. They walked into my firm like they owned it. My father first, Richard Knox, tall, expensive suit, the same expression he used to wear when he wanted a room to bend. My mother, Mary Ann, right beside him, smiling in a way that wasn't warm. It was curated, like she'd practiced in the mirror. And behind them, my younger brother, Grant, hovering half a step back, scanning the walls, the reception area, the clients sitting in the chairs. He looked less confident than the other two, like he knew this was wrong but didn't know how to stop it. They didn't check in, and they didn't lower their voices. They moved straight up to the reception desk like it was their stage. My father leaned over the counter and said loud enough for the waiting room to hear, "Tell Avery Knox her family is here." My receptionist glanced at me through the glass wall of my office. I could see her hands tighten around her notepad. I didn't rush out. I didn't hide. I stood, adjusted my blazer, and walked to reception at a normal pace. Because if you move like prey, people treat you like prey. 2 clients were waiting. One older woman clutching a folder, one man in a suit staring at his phone. Both looked up when my father's voice carried again. "There she is," he said, smiling like we were close. "Downtown attorney. Look at you." My mother's eyes swept over the office like she was pricing it. "So pretty," she murmured. "All this, and you never thought to call your mother." I didn't answer that. I kept my tone clean. "Do you have an appointment?" I asked. My father's smile vanished instantly like he'd flipped a switch. He reached into a leather folder and slammed it down on the reception counter hard enough to make the pen cup rattle. "Managing partner," he said. "Today." I didn't touch the folder. I didn't open it. I just looked at the first page where my firm's name was printed above a block of text that tried to sound official. Avery Knox Law Group, Management Amendment. My mother smirked, watching my face like she expected fear. My brother stared at the floor, jaw tight. My father lowered his voice, but not enough. He wanted the clients to hear the threat, even if they couldn't hear every word. "You're going to sign," he hissed, "or you make me managing partner today. Or I call the building owner and have you shut down." The older woman in the waiting area froze. The man in the suit looked up from his phone, eyes narrowing. My receptionist stopped breathing. I stayed calm. Because threats are loud, but paperwork is louder. I looked at the folder again. "You can't be managing partner of a firm you don't work at," I said evenly. My father's eyes glittered. "I can be whatever I say I am if you don't want trouble," he replied. "You think you're safe because you have a pretty office? You're renting. You don't own the floor. One call, and your little practice is done." My mother leaned in and whispered, sweet as poison, "Stop being difficult. You're a lawyer. You should know how this works." I nodded once. "Sure," I said calmly. My father blinked. "Are sure?" "Sure," I repeated. "Call him." My mother's smirk flickered, confused. My brother's head snapped up like he didn't expect me to agree. My father pulled his phone out slowly, savoring the moment. "You're about to learn," he murmured. loud enough for the room. I leaned slightly toward his phone. "Put it on speaker," I said. His jaw tightened, but he couldn't refuse without losing the performance he'd staged, so he tapped speaker. The ringtone echoed through my reception area. 1 ring, 2. Then a man answered, voice calm and familiar. "This is Calvin Price." My father's smile returned, bright and fake. "Mr. Price," he said warmly, "this is Richard Knox. I'm calling about your tenant, Avery Knox. There are serious issues with her operation, and if she doesn't cooperate with a management restructuring, I expect you to—" Calvin cut him off mid-sentence. "Richard," Calvin said, voice flat, "I've been waiting for this call." My father froze so hard his phone hand stopped moving, and Calvin continued, quieter, colder, still on speaker in front of my clients. "Who authorized this contract?" My father's smile stayed on his face for half a second too long, like his brain needed time to catch up. "Authorized?" he repeated, forced laugh. "Mr. Price, I'm her father. I'm informing you—" Calvin's voice didn't move. "I'm not asking who you are," he said. "I'm asking who authorized you to bring a management contract into my building and use my name as leverage." My mother's smirk tightened. My brother's eyes darted to the waiting room, then to the exit. I kept my face calm and my posture still, like I was standing at council table. My father tried to regain the room with confidence. "Calvin," he said louder, "Avery is running a business in your space. If she refuses family restructuring, I'm prepared to report violations, safety, lease breaches. You don't want liability." Calvin exhaled slowly, like he'd heard this kind of man before. "Richard," he said, "you're speaking to the building owner's representative. You are not speaking to a landlord you can intimidate." My father blinked. "Representative?" he echoed. "Yes," Calvin replied, "and I've already read your contract because you sent it to the wrong email." My father's face twitched. Calvin continued, "You emailed it last night to an address you thought belonged to property management. It belongs to me, and it came with a message that said—" He paused, and I could hear papers shifting on the other end. "She will sign if you pressure her, or will force eviction." The waiting room had gone so quiet I could hear the receptionist's keyboard stop. My mother's mouth parted slightly. My brother's jaw tightened. My father snapped, "That's taken out of context." Calvin didn't react. "No," he said, "it's written, and your name is on it." My father's voice dropped, sharp. "You don't understand our family situation. She's unstable. She makes impulsive decisions. We're trying to protect the firm." Calvin laughed once, short, humorless. "Protect the firm by demanding managing partner status?" he asked. "In a law office, in public." My father's jaw flexed. Calvin's tone turned colder. "I'm going to be very clear," he said. "You do not get to threaten my tenant. And you do not get to use building operations to extort ownership inside her business." My mother tried to slide in with softness. "Mr. Price, we're only asking for a seat at the table," she cooed. "Avery wouldn't be here without us." Calvin's reply was immediate. "Then you should be proud," he said, "not predatory." My father snapped, losing patience. "Fine," he hissed. "Then I'll call the city. I'll report her. Calvin cut him off again, and this time his voice sharpened into something procedural. "If you file false complaints as retaliation, we will treat it as interference with contract and harassment," he said, "and we will hand it to council." My father's eyes flashed. "Council?" he scoffed. "For a building?" Calvin's voice stayed flat. "Yes," he said, "because the building is owned by a fund, and the fund's council is not sentimental." My father looked down at the folder on the counter like it had become heavier. Then Calvin said the sentence that made my father's throat tighten. "Avery is not just renting space," Calvin said. "She holds the master lease for the entire floor, and she has a recorded option on this unit. Your phone threats don't touch her." My mother's smirk died completely. My brother's eyes widened slightly, like he'd just realized my father didn't know what he was walking into. My father tried one last pivot. Shame. "Avery," he snapped at me, pulling the phone off speaker slightly. "Stop this, you're embarrassing us." I didn't move. I didn't raise my voice. I looked at the phone and said calmly, "Put it back on speaker." His eyes burned. He tapped speaker again, furious. Calvin didn't hesitate. "Dear Richard," he said, "I'm documenting this call. You threatened eviction. You attempted extortion through building leverage, and you used my name to do it." My father's face flushed. "You can't record—" Calvin's voice stayed calm. "I can document whatever I want about a call made to my office line," he said. "And I'm not the one in a glass office full of witnesses. You are." My father inhaled sharply. Calvin's tone shifted to me. "Avery," he said, "are you safe right now?" "Yes," I replied evenly. "Do you want security?" he asked. "No," I said. "I want a record, and I want them out." Calvin's reply was immediate. "Then tell them to leave," he said, "and if they don't, call building security and the police. I'll back you." My mother's voice finally cracked, losing polish. "Avery, don't do this," she hissed. "Oh, we're your family." I held her gaze without blinking. "You disowned me," I said. "You can't reclaim me to steal from me." My father slammed his hand on the counter. "Enough," he barked. "This is my firm now, or you lose your lease." Calvin's voice went razor flat. "Richard," he said, "you don't have the authority to threaten a lease you don't control. And one more thing." A pause. Then, "The building owner has also been waiting for this call," Calvin continued, "because your name came up in a separate complaint last month. Another tenant, another partnership contract." My father froze. My mother's eyes darted to my brother. My brother swallowed hard. Calvin's voice dropped lower. "If you're thinking about repeating this behavior," he said, "don't." My father tried to regain control with volume. "This is harassment," he snapped. "Lad, I'm done talking to you." Calvin stayed calm. "Good," he said, "because now I'm going to talk to security." The call ended. My father stared at his phone like it had just become useless. The waiting room was still silent, but now it wasn't the kind of silence that makes you feel alone. It was the kind that makes you feel seen. My father leaned toward me, voice low and venomous. "You think you won," he hissed. "You didn't. I can still get inside your firm." I didn't move. "How?" I asked calmly. He tapped the folder. "You're a lawyer," he whispered. "You know how quickly reputations burn." My mother's smile returned, thin and sharp. "We'll tell the bar," she murmured. "We'll tell your clients what kind of person you are." I nodded once. "Okay," I said. My father blinked, thrown off by the lack of fear. Then my receptionist, Mia, I stepped closer and whispered, "Avery, building security is on their way." My father heard her anyway. His eyes flicked to the elevator bank like he was calculating exits. But it was too late, because my phone vibrated in my pocket. An email notification from my own compliance system. Subject line, "Urgent filing attempt detected. Avery Knox Law Group, PLLC," and the preview text made my blood go cold in a clean, controlled way. Submission source, lobby guest Wi-Fi. Submitted by Richard Knox. My phone buzzed again in my pocket like it was allergic to silence. I didn't pull it out dramatically. I didn't gasp. I just unlocked it and read the alert the way I read a docket notice. Urgent. Filing attempt detected. Avery Knox Law Group, PLLC submission source. Lobby guest Wi-Fi. Submitted by Richard Knox. My father was still standing at my reception counter, breathing hard through his nose like anger was oxygen. My mother stood beside him, lips pressed tight. My brother kept glancing at the clients in the waiting area like he wanted the floor to open. I slid my phone onto the counter, screen angled toward me, and tapped into the details. A filing dashboard opened. timestamp, reference number, and the type of change attempted. Change of registered agent / control contact. Additional request. Update managing member / managing partner designation. My stomach didn't drop. It narrowed. Because he wasn't just trying to embarrass me in front of clients, he was trying to alter the public record while he stood in my lobby. I looked up at him calmly. "You're filing against my firm right now," I said. My father scoffed. "No, I'm not doing anything," he snapped. "You're paranoid." I didn't argue the word paranoid. I scrolled one line lower and read it aloud, flat and clean. "Submitted by Richard Knox," I said. "From my building's guest Wi-Fi." My mother's face tightened. My brother's eyes flashed toward my sister's phone, except she wasn't there. He was the one holding a device now, thumb hovering like he didn't know where to put his hands. My father leaned forward, voice sharp. "That proves nothing." I tapped again. A verification panel popped up. Two-factor verification sent to owner of record. Status, pending. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just let the system speak. "It doesn't go through unless I approve it," I said calmly. "So all you've done is put your name on an attempted fraud." My father's jaw flexed. "Delete it," he hissed. "I can't," I replied evenly. "It's preserved by the registered agent portal. It's time-stamped, and my lobby cameras show exactly who was standing here when it happened." Behind him, one of my clients shifted in his chair. The older woman clutched her folder tighter. My receptionist, Mia, kept her hands still, eyes wide but composed. Then the elevator doors opened. Two building security officers stepped out. Black uniforms, radio earpieces, posture firm. One of them, a tall man with a calm face, approached the desk. "Ms. Knox?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "We received a call from property management," he said. "They're requesting your family leave the premises." My father straightened, offended. "This is unbelievable," he snapped. "I'm her father." Security didn't react to that title. He looked at me. "Now, do you want them trespassed from the suite?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "And I want it documented that he attempted to file a change of control for my firm from the lobby guest network." My father's eyes flashed. "You're making a scene in front of your clients." "No," I said calmly. "You did. I'm closing it." My mother finally spoke, voice sweet and sharp. "Avery, stop," she hissed. "You're going to ruin your own reputation." I held her gaze. "You tried to steal my reputation," I said. "That's different." Security stepped slightly toward my parents. "Sir, ma'am," he said, "you need to leave." My father didn't move right away. He looked at the waiting room again, trying to pull witnesses back to his side. Then he turned and lowered his voice like he was offering one last deal. "Cancel the alert," he whispered. "Sign the amendment." And we walk out smiling. I didn't lean in. I didn't match his secrecy. I said it at normal volume. "No," I said. And that was when he made his second mistake. He reached toward the folder on my counter, the one labeled with my firm's name, and grabbed it like it belonged to him. Security's hand moved instantly, not aggressive, just firm. "Don't touch that," he said. My father yanked the folder back like a child who didn't like being corrected. "It's my family's," he snapped. "It's her business," security replied. "Let go." My father's grip tightened. Mia's voice stayed steady from behind the desk. "Sir," she said, "please don't touch client materials." The man in the waiting room stood halfway up, uncertain, protective of his own file. I lifted one hand slightly, small signal to Mia and my clients. "It's okay," I said calmly. We have cameras." My father released the folder with a hard shove back onto the counter, then turned his eyes on me like he wanted to burn my face into memory. "This isn't over," he hissed. "You can't stop filings. You can't stop me." I nodded once. "I already did," I said. I tapped my phone again and showed security the reference number screen. "This is the attempted change," I said. I want property management to preserve lobby footage from 15 minutes before they arrived until now, and I want a copy of the incident number. Security glanced, then nodded. We'll preserve it, he said, and management will coordinate with counsel. Counsel. That word made my mother's posture shift. She wasn't afraid of police. She was afraid of lawyers who didn't care who she was. My father turned toward the elevator, finally calculating that leaving might be his best move. Security stepped aside just enough to allow it, but not enough to let him control the space. Go, the guard said. Now. My parents moved toward the elevator doors. My brother followed 2 steps behind, eyes down like he wanted to disappear. As they stepped in, my father twisted back one last time and said, loud enough for the waiting room to hear, "She's unstable. She records everything. She thinks everyone is out to get her." I didn't flinch. I looked at my clients and said calmly, "We're rescheduling if you'd like, or we can continue. Your choice." The older woman exhaled shakily. "I'd like to continue," she said. I nodded. "Good," I said. "Then we continue." The elevator doors closed. For a moment, the lobby breathed again. And then my phone buzzed, another alert from the same portal. Not a new attempt, a status change. Verification completed, request rejected. Reason, owner denial. Fraud review initiated. I stared at the screen, then looked at Mia. "Save a screenshot of that," I said. Mia nodded and did it instantly, hands steady now. Security remained by the desk. "Ms. Knox," he said quietly, "property management also asked me to tell you something." "What?" I asked. He lowered his voice. "They've been waiting for today," he said, "because your father's name came up in another tenant complaint last month. Similar tactic, similar paperwork." My chest tightened, controlled. "So he's done this before?" Security nodded once. "Attempted," he said. "And the building council wants your cooperation. A detective may contact you." As if on cue, Aunt Mia's computer chimed, an incoming call routed through our main line. She glanced at the screen, then at me. "Avery," she said quietly. "It's Detective Harris." I picked up the receiver, calm. "This is Avery Knox." A man's voice came through, clipped and professional. "Ms. Knox," he said, "we have an open case involving your father's name tied to attempted business control filings. Today's attempt just hit our desk with your reference number. I need to ask you a few questions." I looked at the closed elevator doors and felt something settle into place. My father hadn't come back because he missed me. He came back because he'd turned family into a method. And now his method had a file number. "Ask," I said calmly. Detective Harris didn't start with sympathy. He started with a timeline. "Ms. Knox," he said, "what time did your parents arrive in your suite?" I checked the camera feed on Mia's monitor. 9:51, I replied. They entered through the lobby at 9:48. "Good," Harris said. "And your father presented a contract demanding he be made managing partner." "Yes," I said, "in front of clients." "Did he threaten anything specific?" Harris asked. "He threatened to call the building owner and have my firm shut down unless I signed," I said evenly. A pause. Then Harris said, "And you put the building owner on speaker." "Yes," I replied. "He did." Harris exhaled once. "We have another case where he used the same tactic," he said. "Partnership paper on a counter, threat of landlord leverage, then an attempted change of control filing within the hour. So it wasn't personal chaos. It was a script." "Tia, what do you need from me?" I asked. Harris's tone sharpened. "The contract packet," he said, "the registered agent alert reference number, and any footage that shows who had a device out during the filing window." "I have all of that," I replied, "and building security is preserving lobby footage." "Perfect," Harris said. "Do not give the documents to anyone except law enforcement or your counsel. We'll send an investigator tomorrow morning." "Understood," I said. Harris paused a beat, then added, "Ms. Knox, are you willing to press charges?" "Yes," I said immediately. No hesitation. Okay, Harris said. Then this becomes part of the existing pattern case, not a standalone complaint. I ended the call and looked at Mia. Forward the call log and the camera timestamps to building counsel, I said. Mia nodded, already moving. I walked back into my office and closed the door for 10 seconds, not to hide, but to breathe in a quiet space that belonged to me. My hands didn't shake, but my chest felt tight with an old, familiar grief. Not grief that they did it. Grief that they came back only when they smelled control. When I stepped out again, my clients were still there. The older woman's eyes were glossy. The man in the suit looked furious on my behalf. "I'm sorry," I said calmly. "We can reschedule if you'd prefer." The older woman shook her head. "No," she said. "I want to continue. If you can handle them like that, you can handle my case." I nodded once. "We'll continue," I said. 2 hours later, after my last client left and the waiting room finally emptied, I pulled up the full camera feed and exported everything to a secure drive. Entry: the contract slam. He's my father's threat, my mother's smirk, the speaker call, the moment my phone alert appeared, and the officers arriving. I labeled each clip with timestamps and saved it twice. Then I opened my email. A message sat there from building counsel. Subject line: preservation notice. Incident involving Richard Knox. The body was short, procedural. They requested my cooperation, confirmed they were preserving lobby and elevator footage, and asked me to confirm whether I wanted the building to issue a formal no trespass directive. I replied with one line: "Yes, issue it, and preserve everything." 3 minutes later, another email arrived, this one from my building owner's representative, Calvin Price. "Avery, good job keeping it on speaker. We have the call recorded on our side. Also, Richard Knox attempted to obtain access to another tenant's suite last month using similar management paperwork. We're escalating to financial crimes, so my father wasn't just targeting me. He was hunting." That night at home, my phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. "You embarrassed us today. Withdraw your report or we'll make sure every client knows what you are." I stared at it, calm. Then I forwarded the screenshot to Detective Harris and to my attorney. No reply, no argument. Because the fastest way to lose control is to start talking to someone who came to take it. The next morning, before I even reached my office, Harris texted me an address and a time. "Investigator will meet you at 10 a.m. Please have contract packet ready." When I arrived at the firm, Mia looked up sharply. "Avery," she said, "your parents are downstairs." My chest tightened, controlled. "Downstairs where?" I asked. "In the building lobby," she said, "with a different folder, and they're telling security they have court documents that give them the right to speak to your clients." My stomach went cold. Because this was the part where bullies stop bluffing and start forging. I didn't rush to the lobby like a woman being chased. I walked there like a lawyer who knows the difference between noise and evidence. Building security met me at the elevator bank on the 20th floor. Calvin Price was on the line with the security supervisor, and the moment I stepped into the elevator, I could feel the building shift into procedure. Keycards, cameras, incident logs, timestamps. When the elevator doors opened in the lobby, I saw them immediately. Wayne and my parents were standing near the front desk, dressed like they were attending a hearing. My father held a new folder. My mother's face was arranged into worry. They were speaking loudly enough for passing tenants to hear. "She's not stable," my mother said, voice trembling on purpose. "She's recording people. She thinks everyone is against her." My father leaned toward security. "We have court paperwork," he announced. "We have a right to speak to her clients. This is an emergency." Grant, my brother, stood behind them, eyes down, jaw clenched. He looked like he wanted to vanish into the marble floor. Security saw me and moved slightly between me and my parents. "Ms. Knox," the supervisor said, "they're claiming they have a court order." I didn't look at my parents. I looked at the folder. "Let me see it," I said calmly. My father's eyes lit with triumph, like he'd been waiting for this. He shoved the folder toward me. "Here," he snapped. "Now you'll stop." I didn't grab it. I didn't flip pages with my bare fingers. I took a single disposable glove from security's desk supply box, because buildings have them, and put it on like I was handling evidence. My father blinked. "Seriously?" "Yes," I said flatly. I opened the folder and scanned the top page. Bold header, Emergency Petition, Temporary Order. A stamped-looking seal in the corner, a signature line at the bottom. It was designed to be glanced at quickly and obeyed. That's what forgery is for. I looked up at security. "Do you have a direct number for building council?" I asked. The supervisor nodded. "On speed dial." "Call," I said. "Put it on speaker." My father's mouth tightened. "No need," he snapped. "It's a court order." "Then it'll survive verification," I replied. Security dialed. Calvin answered almost immediately. "This is Calvin Price." The supervisor said, "Calvin, they're here claiming an emergency court order." Calvin's voice didn't change. "Ask for the case number," he said. I looked back down at the document and found it, tiny in the corner, a sequence of numbers and letters meant to look official. I read it out. There was a pause on the line, then Calvin said, "Flat. That case number does not exist in our county's system." My father went still. My mother's eyes widened, then narrowed, trying to recalibrate the performance. Calvin continued, "Avery, do not touch anything else. That document is likely forged. Keep it in view. Well, building security should preserve footage and contact police." My father snapped, "This is harassment." Calvin ignored him. "Security," he said, "do not allow them upstairs. Do not allow them access to tenant areas. If they attempt to approach clients, detain and call law enforcement." The supervisor nodded. "Understood." I held the paper still and looked at my father. "You brought forged court papers into my building," I said calmly. My father's face flushed. "They're real," he barked, too loud, too fast. Calvin's tone sharpened on speaker. "Richard," he said, "I've been waiting for you to try this, because you did something similar last month with a different tenant, and now you've escalated." My mother's voice cracked. "We're just trying to protect our daughter." Calvin cut in. "You're trying to control your daughter," he said. "Oh, and you're doing it with fake paperwork." My father reached for the folder like he wanted it back. Security stepped closer. "Sir," the supervisor said, "don't touch that." My father's hand froze in the air, and then the lobby doors opened again. 2 uniformed officers entered, calm, scanning, the same controlled posture as yesterday. One of them approached security. "We got a call about a suspected forged court document," she said. "Yes," security replied. "They're claiming it's an emergency order." The officer looked at me. "Ma'am, are you the subject of this?" she asked. "Yes," I replied. "Did you request this?" she asked. "No," I said. The officer held out her hand. "I need the document," she said. I placed it on the counter without sliding it dramatically. The officer scanned it, then looked at the seal, then looked at my father. "Well, sir," she said, "where did you obtain this document?" My father's eyes flicked toward my mother for half a second, tiny, telling. Then he snapped, "It's ours. Family court." The officer's expression didn't change. "Which court?" she asked. My father hesitated. That hesitation was louder than a confession. The officer nodded once. "Okay," she said, "we're going to verify. Until we do, you are not free to leave." My mother's performance cracked into real panic. "This is a misunderstanding," she whispered. "We were scared." The officer didn't react to fear. "Ma'am," she said, "step back." Grant finally spoke, quiet, shaking. "Dad, stop," he said. My father ignored him. Then the officer turned the page slightly and found a line that made her posture shift, a judge signature that didn't match the printed name beneath it. And she looked at my father again, "Sir," she said, "this appears counterfeit." My father's voice rose. "No, it doesn't." The second officer, older, stepped closer. "Sir," he said, "you're being detained pending verification." My father tried to pull away. Security moved in. Controlled hands. No drama, just restraint. My mother's eyes went wide. "Richard!" And for the first time, my father's confidence shattered into something raw. "You did this!" he hissed at me. I kept my voice flat. "You did this," I replied. The forged emergency order was confirmed counterfeit within hours. The case number didn't exist. The clerk's office verified no filing, and the signature and seal were not issued by any court in the jurisdiction. Building security provided lobby footage, elevator logs, and audio from the earlier speaker call. My firm provided reception footage of the contract demand and the portal alert timestamp showing my father's attempted filing from the guest network. Detective Harris folded the new evidence into the existing pattern case. What had started as attempted coercion and business filing interference became something heavier when the forged court papers appeared. Deliberate escalation, intent to intimidate, and an effort to gain access to clients through manufactured authority. My father was charged with fraud-related offenses tied to the filing attempt and the counterfeit document, and my mother faced charges tied to participation and impersonation in the supporting narrative. Grant was interviewed and eventually provided a statement that confirmed the plan was discussed beforehand, which removed any doubt about intent. When the building issued a permanent no trespass directive and circulated their photos to security staff, my parents were barred from the property, and any future appearance triggered an automatic call to law enforcement. The bar complaint my father threatened never landed because the evidence trail, speaker call, portal logs, camera footage, and police reports made retaliation look exactly like what it was. My law firm didn't collapse. It got sharper. Clients who witnessed the reception scene didn't leave. Several asked to reschedule because they trusted how calmly I handled pressure. I added one small policy to my intake process: no walk-ins and active matters without a confirmed appointment, and all front desk interactions documented. Not because I was afraid, because I don't leave gaps for people like my father. My mother tried to reach me through relatives. She sent messages about forgiveness, about family, about how we're all hurting. The court's protective order made those attempts stop quickly. After years of silence, they finally showed up for my life, but only to take from it. And once the system saw that clearly, they lost the only tool they ever had over me: access. Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the story. If your family suddenly showed up after years of silence and demanded control of the life you built, what would you do? Would you give in just to keep the peace, or would you step back and let the facts speak for themselves? I'd really like to know what you think. Tell me in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next video.